Day 399 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzy here, and today is a super quick update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine, which means we'll start out with taking a look at the Russian losses, and currently Russia is sitting on 172,340 military personnel losses there. Then in terms of hardware, 7 tanks, 6 artillery, surprisingly no APVs today, and 1 aircraft. Then we'll jump back to the map and we'll start out again in Russia, where Russian media reported a drone painted in the colors of the Ukrainian flag was found in the Moscow region. Now, this one could have been a scout or a surveillance drone, but something feels fishy about this one, if I'm to be entirely honest. The photos are too closely zoomed in. The paint job is a bit flamboyant and too obvious, if I am to say so myself, and the ground is looking pretty dry there for the Moscow region as well. Although whether or not it was a media-inserted false flag attack, does it really matter? Not really, as Russia is sending hundreds of drones every month across to Ukraine. But still, there have been other Ukrainian drones that have made it all the way to Moscow, passing every single Russian air defense system on the way. I'm just kidding, there probably is none. They're all in Ukraine or Moscow capital itself, right downtown. But either way, I'm still quite impressed, the implications of which are quite staggering for Russia. Then we'll move back into the Ukrainian map today and we'll have a look at the Sumy Oblast. So, Ukrainian President Zelensky visited the Sumy Oblast and was also seen near the border protections against Russia. And it's actually really nice to see that he visited Sumy, as Sumy has often become the dismissed northern front line that typically has Russia indiscriminately flinging shells into the oblast there. Then we'll move down the map and hey, Bukmut holds. And in my absence over the past few days, I might have thought Russia would have made some more substantial gains, but instead just creep gains from the south again. And those few creep gains in the south of which were said to come at quite a heavy cost for the Russian/Wagner forces or assault groups there. But it is certainly clear to everybody right here, right now, that the Ukrainian forces will not give up Bukmut without a fight. And that has certainly been proven now, which Russian forces had to learn the hard way. Oh, and also, just outside of 24 hours ago, the Ukrainian forces downed a Russian Su-24 tactical bomber near Bukmut. So a day in the life. Then we'll move around on the map and take a brief look at Curson. A couple of things here, in fact. So the Russian army shelled Curson overnight in the city center itself on the liberated North Bank, damaging a hospital. Which always gets me wondering, what are they thinking? But the sad truth is they're probably not thinking. And with the Russia's own limited capabilities, they probably have no idea what they're even striking at. So the best case scenario for Russia is that it's just criminal negligence. Best case scenario. Then, moving down south, as far as we can almost go for Curson, we will see you'll actually see Russia's desperation is still on full display. This time we have ditches and fences along the occupied beaches along the Black Sea coastline at Skidovsk. Paranoid much? Then we'll move to some interesting news for today. So the Ukrainian tank forces have received the first batch of Challenger 2s, the main battle tanks from the UK. These are the tanks that will utilize the depleted uranium rounds, which I'm sure you've heard of. And again, is not a nuclear weapon. Instead, the depleted uranium properties make for a much denser, armor-busting tank round. used by many nations, including Russia, who have already used them in Ukraine. And even so, Russia is still using this situation right now as their main talking point regarding escalations and theoretical nuclear escalations. It's just so dumb, as they're using any excuse they can grab onto, as they're running out of excuses from the old excuse pile. And in more tank news, Ukraine has received all 18 of the Leopard 2 tanks and all 40 of the Marder infantry fighting vehicles from Germany that was pledged to be sent to them. So if I pop up an already out-of-date tank graph displaying where we're at with NATO tank supplies, the needle is really starting to move here. And those Leopards will perform marvelously on the battlefield. And don't get me wrong with this next statement, but the UK Challengers and the US Abrams tanks are just incredibly battlefield capable and may feel somewhat indestructible to the operators, the tankers. Then in some other news I find quite interesting, the Russian Ministry of Defense claims that the Russian air defenses intercepted one of the new 150-kilometer range GL-SDB munitions from Ukraine for the first time. Oh, did they now? So many schools of thought here with this one, such as, firstly, what did they shoot it down with? It's a small target, low heat signature. Its wing design gives it the benefit of a non-ballistic trajectory, so harder to hit. Then, secondly, they were officially announced to be sent to Ukraine just last December with a delivery date of up to 9 months. And the wait for these ones being due to officially setting them up with the HIMARS launcher pads, basically. Then thirdly, and perhaps most likely, this could be more Russian Ministry of Defense MOD lies. Those guys just trying to look good. And it's all the same with, just as they've done in the past, verifiably lying about taking out other NATO equipment that they never even had the chance for Ukraine to make delivery of, or get delivery of, let alone to have them on the front lines, like the Bradley IFV, for instance. And let's say, hypothetically, let's just give them some wiggle room. Hypothetically, if Russia has lied about this, it's actually doing Russia a great disservice for a few reasons, but the main one I'll mention today is because if there was any previous political delays or filibustering to slow down the supply of these newer, longer range munitions, which is almost twice the range of previous game-changing HIMARS GMLRS munitions, then those political delays have all but dissipated now. Because the exact same thing happened with the Patriot air defense systems. You might remember that. When NATO was debating back and forth about sending them, Putin in the middle of that foolishly said, let them bring the Patriots. We will crush them. Then NATO said, okay, and then the floodgates opened. And the larger point here, of course, is that Putin appears to be, more often than not, receiving low-quality intel from his generals, leading to poor choices across a whole spectrum of issues on in the Russian military landscape. Then in some quick funnies to round it all off with today, guys. So the T-54 tank coming from Russia is no longer the butt of the joke anymore. So ladies and gents, I present to you the IS-3 heading west to Ukraine as per a local picture snap. So the IS-3, named after Joseph Stalin, or otherwise known as Iosif Stalin with an I, started production in the last months of World War II in 1945. Now, I can't say for any certainty Russia will be actually using these things. However, if they work, they would absolutely send them, 100% guaranteed. Then in a final related funny, so Medvedev is at it again. Oh, and I'll quickly squeeze in firstly, perhaps I haven't mentioned it, but I believe him to be the #1 sociopath in the Kremlin regime, even a smidge more than Putin. So he's usually making outlandish threats to the collective West, but in this video, he's changed gears a bit, making threats inside of Russia as well. as he quotes Stalin in an attempt to ensure that the military producers meet their quotas, threatening criminal charges in failing to do so. And so he makes the example of undelivered tank hulls in this video. Now, will these threats get him some good results? Well, it depends on what you consider good results. For instance, getting the requested tank hull producers to meet their 2023 and 2022 backlog quota as well. Well, will they do it? Maybe, but if they do achieve it in an unfeasible and politically enforced time frame, the production quality will simply be substandard and inferior outputs. It's that simple. Less components, less hardware, less firepower, less capability, incomplete products effectively. For instance, if you were a Russian military arms producer and had two choices, pumping out defunct bad quality hardware faster or jail, it's simply the case that you're not going to choose jail. It's a rush job, pure and simple, a Russian rush job, for which I am certain we'll see some spectacular fails for. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all your patience in the last few days. Those recent wildfires just made me feel like I was smoking cigars back to back, but I'm quite certain I'll be back for another update tomorrow. So thanks again. Please feel free to leave a comment, a like, subscribe, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.